Hello, my name is Jeffrey Holder, and I would love to invite you to explore the art of Benny Andrews. Benny creates with oils, inks, collage. He captures smiles, swaggers, and swoons of people. Southern people, northern people, black, white, rich, poor, pious, heathen. In Benny's eyes, they're all his people. Join me as we enter the unique world of artist Benny Andrews, writer, activist, painter of people.
I've always felt that the most important thing was to express myself, and everything else would be secondary.
Yeah, he really does have a special humanity. I think he's someone who really feels that all people are his people.
He's keeping a diary. He's holding up a mirror to America and making us look at ourselves.
I think it's about his powers of observation and his wanting to record situations and make sure that things that are important aren't lost.
Benny was raised in a culture that was African American, Scotch Irish, Cherokee, and a diverse range of other influences in the South.
When you talk about Benny's family roots, his Southern roots, etc., you have to incorporate folklore into what it means for Benny to tell a story.
Faces talk to me too. I get my pain started, and this face here is telling me something too, and it gets to be kind of like a communication. I look in the face and I slowly start feeling what this person is supposed to be doing, and it guides me some. In my studio, I talk to myself sometimes, I turn my music on. I came from a family of dreamers, and all of us, all my brothers and sisters drew because my father did, and like I've been drawing and painting ever since I can remember. They say I started when I was about 2 years old. It all came from the movies, magazines, and comics. And it was never something that was real for us. It was always like dreaming. We would look at the movies like Humphrey Bogart and Alan Ladd and Errol Flynn and those kind of movies. And it was always an adventure. My brother and I, Raymond, always imagined that we would live those kind of adventures with the turned up trench coat and smoking a cigarette dangling out of your mouth and your fedora down over one eye and meeting Veronica Lake someplace in a dark street or something and saving her from the villa. A lot of times I'd be coming across situations that I had no experience in, so I'd draw up on my movie experience. What would Humphrey do in a case like this? And in social situations, I'd get invited to things that were a little out of my social class, and I'd think, what would old Cary Grant do like this?
Born in 1930, Benny Andrews is from Madison, Georgia. His parents were sharecroppers, and Benny was able to attend school only when he was not needed on the plantation.
I came from a very poor family. We were sharecroppers. That is where the half of the crop goes to the person that owns the land and the other half goes to the person that works the land. We had to plant cotton in the spring, and we started planting cotton in April. And then we had to pick the cotton, and we would pick cotton until into December. So I only went to high school 5 months a year. My parents, and we don't understand why, there was no reason, but they always read and subscribed to newspapers and magazines, and we had a radio, which was rather unusual. We also went to the movies a lot, and those were the kind of things that supplemented very poor education. I went to a log cabin school, and I had one teacher for 7 classes. There was segregation in the South, so there was no library for us to go to. There was a library for the white people, not for us. We would collect from the newspapers and the magazines. And we'd cut out all of the comics and cut out different things, pictures and things, and we had just boxes of them under the bed, and those were the things that we would use for our references. And our parents never made us throw away things that we collected. They complimented us on what we did. They encouraged us to do things, and it was not geared toward any career or anything. It was just more or less to express yourself.
Benny's artistic talents, evident when he was a young child, won him several early scholarships. Benny was a member of the United States Air Force during the Korean War. He was educated at the Art Institute of Chicago.
The first museum I went to was when I went to school at Chicago Art Institute. I was 24 years old. That was the first museum I'd ever been to.
Benny then moved in 1958 to the Lower East Side in New York City.
I came to New York, and the idea was I was always going to be an artist, so it was just how to do that. I get up early in the morning and tie all my paintings to myself with clotheslines, and I looked like a sandwich because I had paintings on each side of me. And I walk up to the Museum of Modern Art. When I got up in the 60s and the 70s, the doormen were like people, like at bicycle races, like, come on, come. They were just trying to help me. And one guy actually went in and got me a cup of water. I'll never forget it. One doorman on Fifth Avenue said, just a moment. He saw me coming, and he went and got me a cup of water. I mean, it was almost like a relay race. It's that thing about pinching yourself. And I mean, I live a very realistic life, and I've done all the realistic things, like, I've raised children, and I've been practical about making money, and I've been practical about voting and serving in the military and all those kind of things. But that is just kind of like a survival thing. The thing that is almost like the Alice in Wonderland thing is that all the time there's an unreality that's taking place. For me to be in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum or to go to the athletic club for a benefit, it's almost like a dream. It's like something that is so inconsistent with me going into the prisons to work. I used to head a voluntary program with the prevention of cruelty to children and things like that. And to go from that, and then you go to, say, get your little outfit on, your little suit on, and then you go to the athletic club. It's such a quick change that it has that you think, this is, I mean, not Alice in Wonderland, because I'm a guy, so it's like the Bill in Wonderland. But it has that quality. Scraps or anything. I have to make my own, or I have to find them. Now, some of these are clothing for my children when they were kids.
Benny's own life is a kind of collage of different characters. He is both a Southerner and a Northerner.
Now here is the strap for the person. Now I'm going to have to add more paper to this. I got to get me another sheet of paper. But in my studio, I just build it because at first it's to hang down low. I get another sheet of paper.
Benny is a black artist, but would also like to be known as an artist who transcends race in his work.
Now, I can do all of her. Now, first gone, that's going to be over her arm. You got to create an arm. I got to make an arm. The people that built everything are usually the ones that don't receive the final rewards. That's life. My work is based on doing people. I can see how in the body, the human figure, all these things that we're capable of doing to express ourselves that does not require any material things. How a person wears his cap, it'll be to the side, or his belt, or how he rolled his pant legs up, or how he turned his collar, and also the movements of the body and things like that. A good example would be in pool shooters, you know, people in the pool room, is all of the contortions they get in order to shoot and things like that. And you see that with poor people, they have to compensate for not having things, and very often they have to use their mind and their imagination.
Well, I think that's very typical of Benny's commitment to bringing to a heroic level, and certainly to an important level, the roles of individual people, the sharecroppers, the mothers, the role of teachers in society. And without people like Benny committed to magnifying the significance of these individuals, I think our society would be at a tremendous loss.
He focuses on people at work, whatever their work is. I think that's a reoccurring thing. It's sort of a Walt Whitman-like celebration of the working person.
I mean, he can take simple people, he can bring them up very close to the picture plane, and I get the feeling that he looks at them for a long period of time, and then he finds some kind of earthy goodness, some kind of real stuff, human stuff that they're made of. There are not many artists in the 20th century who have had that kind of concern for simple people, for the dignity of people no matter where they come from, and who manage to communicate that spiritual dignity in a very physical way.
He somehow has always been able to move with incredible grace between all kinds of different worlds, and yet he never, ever forgets that core base of people who are supporting what's going on. If Benny's at an event, you're likely to find him in the kitchen saying hello.
He realizes that being a waiter is a job where, you have to serve people and you have to be polite. You know, it may be a more elegant surrounding than being a sharecropper, but it's another building block. So that's what he does totally, I think, is celebrate the people who build the country.
Okay, then when you're in your studio, a lot of times you use all the space you can. So this painting is over another painting. Now here, I'm working on I'm doing what I call my American series, and I'm doing football players here. So I have the coach, and I have these different players, and I have this guy here who obviously is very tired and has been in the game. You can tell he's all battered up, and these probably are substitutes. They're subs. They probably haven't even played, and this is the one guy that's in there. And of course, you can see what the coach is doing is directing the game from where he stands. And so this is going to be called strategy, and this is another one of the works. And I'm continually doing these people where they look real. They look like a slice of life where you take a little section out of life. And of course, I like the idea of this guy. This guy works very well. I have to keep looking at these guys and see if they are convincing or not. They look rather shallow, but I'm saying that they are not playing in the game, so maybe that's why they look so shallow. And the coach here looks like he's really in charge. The idea is to show him being in charge.
That real profound sense of human beings, of where you can put a head. of what you can do with a head, of what you can do with two hands, of the way shoulders could come out of the neck and relate to the head, that sort of quirky physicality that really gives you a sense of what a particular human being is.
Every portrait of every person is like a brick in the building of America.
Now, and the one good thing about collage, you can make it like real life. So I actually put this thing over her arm, like she's carrying it first.
Collage is at the heart of his art. He is a collage artist, and I think much of his art and even his life is about a collage aesthetic.
I lost my pencil again. So I go get the brush. That's the nice thing about being an artist. You can do whatever you want to do. So now I'm going to connect all this with my paint. So now I'm painting.
He grew up using anything he could, as did his father as an artist, as did his family. It was nothing to draw in the dirt if you didn't have material, to use scraps of paper, or whatever you had. And to the present day, he uses what is at hand, fabric, scraps, and reuses works until they found their proper home.
A real nice dress. Now, like dressing someone, like putting clothing on, like mannequins. Like
Collage is a very fundamental part of 20th century art. And that way of breaking up the picture surface and bringing in objects from the outside, and really in the process questioning the nature of pictorial reality and making it possible to rebuild pictorial reality with objects that come outside it. And yet I think that Benny uses collages in a different way.
Oh, yes. A hat. I got this hat from an old painting I cut out. I'll substitute this hat for this one. Put this on her. This is like dressing her, like I said earlier. Yeah. Now that changes her whole personality. So this goes back in the pile for another day, because I like that much better. Good. Wow. All right. This is why I'm having all these different things from other paintings and other things. I just can keep finding stuff. Okay. Oh.
I think the collaging is really probably the most special aspect of his work. It's very interesting to have those works in the museum and live with them day after day and just see how they affect people, because people really remark on the use of a real tie or the cloth, etc. And you have a sense that somehow those materials were very personal to him. It's a way of bringing life into the museum, into the painting, directly incorporating something from real everyday life into art.
Yeah. Work on that. Yeah. That's why that little pile is good. Then sometimes I think, yeah, maybe I'll try another face. This work here is called Men. And what I have here is just 3 guys standing around shooting the breeze. And I've done 3 different kind of people, because that's what happens when they're having their drinks, be it pop or beer or whatever they're drinking. It's just to take 3 men standing around talking. A good example of my collage, and you can't see it as well when you're looking at it, like this man's nose is really out. And of course this man has a real tough face. All this is collage. His cap and everything is collage and everything. Now this is just painted. This is just painted on here. And of course here's a real shirt. Here's where I really use a real shirt. But I have to twist it around to make it look like it's really on this person. I couldn't just take a shirt and paste it on here. I have to make it. But I have to really remake these over. That's what the artist does. The artist takes a material, be like, in my case, these old shirts and hats and stuff, or even paint, and then makes it the way he or she wants it to be. Not just to take it and put it down like it is, but recreate something out of something that's already made. Laurence Olivier talked about an actor. It's not ceases to be a person you identify as an individual, but the part that he or she's playing. And that's what I am. When I'm doing a series, that's what I am. And then when I go to the next series, and I'm thinking of going to a series either about work or sports, that's roughly in my mind now, and I'll keep thinking about it. And then that's what I'll become.
Okay, so this is a new series then?
Yeah, it's the music series. I've been working on this for about 4 or 5 months now, and Lisa works on paper. And then, of course, I work my way around, like I always do with my things of music. But the thing about it that's interesting is this, working with music like this, I started out with the instruments, and now I'm slowly getting into it where it had much more of a meaning that transcends the music itself. But starting over here where, I dealt with jazz and country and western, and of course you see where I'm dealing with the classical. I mean, I almost have to tell you this first because I get going here with this music, and I get it so loud, and I share the studio with Neen Humphrey. She was right across the way there, and she had to pound on the door and say, kind of quiet down.
Too much inspiration.
Yeah, well, that's when, husband and wife working together in the same studio, sometimes things like that happen,
One of the things we're going to be looking at in the show is that balance between realism and surrealism, and this one's sort of straddling that in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's almost as if the whole concept that the plants almost like respond. But it's also like when I was a kid growing up, we were always fascinated by those things. So the Indian guy with the little thing with a cobra in a basket, and as he would play that thing, the cobra would slowly come up. So an idea here is the plants are literally coming up.
He keeps building, he keeps adding. The series, the America series, had over 100 paintings, and he said he could do more. And then he said, next is going to be the World Series. That he's going to. So now I'm going to do the world. So he keeps growing, and he even sort of hinted that intergalactic series might be possible someday.
Benny approaches subjects such as social realism and politics in his art.
As an artist, I really do much more than what you would imagine a regular artist does. I also organize things. I organize programs and classes in prisons, and also I help a lot in places where people have a lot of trouble, like in reform schools and things like that. And also I assist and help a lot of young artists, tell them and explain to them how you get started in terms of you would like to show your work in art galleries, how to prepare their material.
He's just had such an incredible leadership role with different groups, from his early work with the Black Emergency Cultural Coalition, picketing museums like the Whitney about their exclusion of artists, consistently from the 60s through the 70s, directly addressing the lack of attention, critical attention, the lack of museum representation and gallery representation. What he did to open doors for other people can't be underestimated. I mean, it's enormous what he's done.
And then I went out to protest to try to make it sure that more African-American artists would show. And I stayed out of Madison Avenue galleries until 1970. Between that time to fight and protest that African-Americans would also show their own imagery. I'm influenced more by people who have a self-confidence, have a sense that they are okay, no matter who they are. All of us, no matter who we are, race, sex, wealth, number, have to come to grips with who we are as individuals. How good are we? How bad are we? What are our problems? What are our shortcomings? What are our strengths?
His independence, his real determination to do what he believes he has to do. I value his kind of stubborn resistance to categories, to being confined anywhere, his determination to see himself as an artist and to see people as all part of the same human race, and that belief not only in people, but in what painting can do, what drawing can do, what collage can do, to memorialize people who have been forgotten and really bring out a kind of common human substance that that people don't talk a hell of a lot about nowadays.
All my life, even before I got there, art had been a real thing. It was a real tangible thing, and I'd always been challenged to use my imagination because everyone could draw a little. So that was not why people were singling me out. It was because I was pushing myself to do better. Even now as an artist, I don't look at it as like those picturesque things that you see on television about being famous and being this or that. It's a real part of my life. Do something you'd like to do. If you like to write, or if you like to sing, or if you like to dance, do it for the pleasure of doing it. And people do make livings from it, and people become very well known, and they get a lot of money from it. But that's not the real reason you do it. Most of the people that we see on television, or see in the museums, or hear over the radio, they really started out doing it because they wanted to do it. And they started out doing it like everybody else. They started out very young. They started out doing it really not good. They learned how to do it, and they were interested, and they went to other places. They looked at other people, and they listened. And then they developed their own imagination. If you develop your imagination, you can almost do anything, because that's the difference between people who do things well and not, the ones who use their imagination along with what they do.
This actually I got to work on.